So Terry O'Neill, and I'm the president of the National Organization for Women.
All right, well, let's begin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what NOW is?
So I'm the president of the national level of NOW, the National Organization for Women. We are a 50-year-old grassroots women's organization. We have about 280 chapters around the country. Of those, we have 51 state chapters. We do recognize the District of Columbia as a state internally, so we have 51. NOW's mission is actually to take action, meaning policy, meaning to pass legislation and then to implement the legislation. So to take action through intersectional grassroots organizing to lead societal change and promote feminist values.
So let's talk about some of the legislation. What are some things that you think might be coming up in the next 2 years that you're going to be looking out for, either to try to block or that your initiatives that you're trying to push forward?
So we're working very, very hard on a number of pieces of legislation. One is the so-called Each Woman Act. It's an acronym standing for Equal Access to Health Care. And what it does is stops the blocking of insurance companies covering reproductive health care for women, including abortion care. Right now, there's a thing called the Hyde Amendment. It gets attached to a must-pass appropriations measure every single year, and it blocks Medicaid dollars from being used to cover abortions. Abortions cost $500 and up right now, and if you're low income and you're on Medicaid, you don't have $500 hanging around. We believe that all women should have equal access to reproductive health care, and that women's reproductive health care should not be blocked any more than men's reproductive health care should be blocked. We get that there are religious objections to abortion. There are religious objections to vasectomy. You don't see efforts to stop men from getting vasectomies under the law. You shouldn't see efforts under the law to stop women seeking the reproductive health care that they need when they need it.
What's the appetite in Congress for that? I know that there's even been pushback for groups that provide abortion services from getting any federal money. So now you would like to expand that to actually fund abortions using federal funds. Do you think that might be possible in the next Congress?
I do. You know, it's very fascinating. The coalition that is being led by the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Health and other organizations that has looked into this, what we find when you ask voters about abortion care, they may have ideological sort of attitudes about it, like, well, abortion is wrong or abortion is a woman's choice. But overwhelmingly, they all agree that if they know someone who has an abortion, this is what they want. They want it to be safe. They want it to be non-judgmental. They want it to be adequately informed by accurate medical science. They want it to be, they don't want it to be blocked, and they want it to be covered like any other form of insurance. So, excuse me, we believe that this is a moment when, in fact, the voters are with us. Now, the Republican leaders in Congress, and I say this as a nonpartisan person, NOW is a nonpartisan organization. It is factual that it is the Republicans in Congress who are viciously attacking women's access to health care. Those Republican leaders have done their best to, for example, shut down Planned Parenthood clinics, but not just Planned Parenthood, all the Title X clinics that are equipped to provide reproductive health care. There was a member of Congress who actually said, when we shut down the family planning clinics, he was asked, where will the women go to get their health care? One thing he said was, there's dental clinics for reproductive health care, for breast exams, for STD screenings, for birth control, for abortion care. Give me a break. So these guys who know nothing about women's bodies, nothing about women's health, are doing their best to stop women from accessing the health care that they need. This is becoming increasingly obvious to voters. I think that the strong national support for women's access to basic health care is one reason why the Democratic platform this year includes strong support for the Each Woman Act, the Equal Access, and why Hillary Clinton has stepped up and said she is in full support of equal access. So I think this is a moment when we can overcome the minority. They have control, they have power, but they're a minority, And right now, we are still a democracy. So I think we've got a road ahead.
You mentioned Hillary Clinton. We'll talk about the presidential race in just a moment, if you don't mind. But let's look at the Supreme Court and what types of cases that would affect women might be coming up in the Supreme Court in the next session.
Well, you know, it's entirely possible that a case that would test Roe v. Wade would come up. Now, last year, the Supreme Court came out with a hugely important decision, striking down the clinic shutdown law in Texas, and they struck it down on really good grounds. What they said was, the Texas law is special regulations on abortion clinics. And the court said none of these regulations have anything to do with women's health. One of the regulations was the corridors have to be a certain width. If implemented, that would have forced the abortion clinics to literally bulldoze their facilities and rebuild with wider corridors in some cases. So stuff like that. And the Supreme Court said if you're going to impose health regulations on medical facilities, they have to be related to women's health. This wipes out a whole range of state-level, what we call TRAP laws, targeted regulation of abortion providers. That was just Texas. That was highly fact-dependent, that case. So there are other cases that are bubbling up from other states that I think may come to the Supreme Court in the future. This is why we need 9 justices on the Supreme Court. It is also why it is beyond outrageous that Mitch McConnell has targeted our first African-American president and said we're not going to allow him to do anything. McConnell had as his own purpose when Barack Obama was elected in 2008, Mitch McConnell said, my purpose is to make him a one-term president, and when he failed at that, he said, my purpose is to prevent this president from actually achieving any legislative initiatives. Well, now Mitch McConnell is saying he's going to prevent the President of the United States from even having his Supreme Court nominee considered by the Republican-dominated Senate. That's anti-American. That is a violation of the Constitution of the United States, and it does not escape the folks that I work with, and the now activists around the country that I work with. It has not escaped our notice that this is an attack on an African-American president, and we believe it is racially motivated.
And you say, racially motivated and an African-American president, but it doesn't sound like it's going to stop there. People like Senator McCain are saying that whoever's president next time, we can't let the Supreme Court get more liberal. That sounds like there's a lot of senators and Republican senators who say that if Hillary Clinton is elected, there might not be a nomination that's confirmed for Supreme Court. Your thoughts?
I just think that Mr. McCain and Mr. McConnell and they need to wrap their brain around the fact that people who look like them and think like them are not the only people in America. That in fact there are far more of us who believe in equality, who believe in expanding opportunity for everyone, who believe in a minimum wage that is not a starvation wage, which it is today, but a minimum wage that would actually allow you to put food on your table and even maybe set aside some savings for your kid to go to college. We don't think that that is asking too much. Mr. McCain evidently does. Mr. McConnell evidently does. We will swamp them if we can. And one of the things we have to do is get dark money out of politics, because it is absolutely skewing who gets power in this country. And in a democracy, it should be the voters that determine that.
Dark money, how is that a women's issue? You're the National Organization for Women. I should say we're speaking with Terry O'Neill from NOW. How is dark money in politics a women's issue?
It turns out it's absolutely huge. If you look at what has happened since the Supreme Court opened the floodgates of corporate financing for elections, since 2010, what we have seen is these waves of extreme conservatives moving in to take over state legislatures and moving in to take over the House of Representatives. Now in 2014 they moved in and took over the United States Senate. What they do once they're in office is they press to shut down Planned Parenthood. They refuse to consider increasing the minimum wage. And let me just say for a moment, the minimum wage is very much a women's issue because 2/3 of minimum wage workers are women. And here's something that a lot of people don't know. 70% of tipped workers in this country are women, and the tipped minimum wage is $2.13 an hour. The vast majority of women in the restaurant industry are not working at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and making good money in tips. They're working at Denny's and IHOP and Olive Garden, and on average, they're bringing in $5 to $6 an hour. That includes tips. So the minimum wage really needs to go up. These guys have blocked every effort to increase the minimum wage. They block every effort to make childcare affordable so that families, moms and dads, can feel like their kid is in a safe place while they go to work to put food on the table at low wages. So it's very much a women's issue.
Well, it's November, so of course we're going to talk about the presidential election. Has now endorsed a candidate?
We did, yes. We endorsed Hillary Clinton early on, very enthusiastically, and we are really, really excited. We are on the verge right now of electing the first woman president of the United States of America, which is amazing. But from my perspective, what's even better is that she is an unapologetic feminist. She stands for women. She has spent her entire career fighting for women's equality, fighting to empower women and their families. And she's not embarrassed, and she's not apologetic, and she's not running away from that record. You know what she says, if fighting for affordable child care and paid family leave and paid sick days and equal pay for equal work, if that means playing the women card, deal me in.
I've been to some Donald Trump rallies, and I've seen some stickers, pins, T-shirts that someone, I think that reasonable people would say are misogynistic. How do you think that that's played out in this campaign? What just the tenor that you've heard from people not just opposing a candidate, but seemingly opposing a candidate without, and using her being a woman to kind of emphasize that.
So I think one of the things that it has done, it has driven Republican women away from the Republican Party. That is a phenomenon that I think after this election is over, the Republicans really need to take a good look at how many women they've lost. And I think what the Republicans need to think about is for how many generations have they lost women. It's fascinating. In 2008 and in 2012, white women voted for John McCain in 2008 and for Mitt Romney in 2012. They broke for the Republicans both times. Right now, the deep misogyny and the crass and disgusting misogyny of Donald Trump, which has not resulted in Republican leaders denouncing him. They denounce his words, but they support him. Women are leaving the Republican Party in hordes. I mean, they're just absolutely, it's hemorrhaging. And right now, it looks as if the white women's vote will go for the Democrats this time.
Yet, even though that's true, it's still a very close race. It's a very close race here in Florida. It's a close race nationally. I've seen predictions based on mathematics, and the 538 and so on do these mathematical predictions, and they're like, it's completely a toss-up. Florida could go 49.9%. Anything can happen. Why is it so close?
Well, I think actually there's a number of reasons. First, 30 years of bashing Hillary Clinton has had an impact. So there's no question that the effort to drive her unfavorables up has worked. Kevin McCarthy was startlingly honest about it in an interview he did some time ago. So you have that piece, but you also have a phenomenon in our country. There was a study done not too long ago where people were asked to respond to a sort of hypothetical woman politician seeking power and a hypothetical man politician seeking power. With the woman, the study respondents showed a high level of quote-unquote moral outrage just because a woman was seeking power. They did not show that same level of moral outrage with a man seeking power. And interestingly, the respondents, there was no difference in the respondents whether they were men or women responding with this feeling of moral outrage. So we do have quite a bit of work to do in our country to become comfortable with the idea of women being leaders. If there's anyone who's going to make this country comfortable with a woman president, it's going to be Hillary Clinton, and here's why. She runs for, when she declared that she was going to run for the United States Senate after being First Lady, her favorables went way, way down. She won the election. When she began serving as a United States Senator, her favorables went steadily, steadily, steadily up. She was respected by her peers. She was appreciated by the voters. She kept in touch with her voters. What do you need? What do you want? She was open. She was known inside Washington, D.C. as a workhorse, not a show horse. Although she's one of the best known, best recognized women in the world. She worked. She did her job. When she runs for president in '08, her favorables go way down. That, I think, is connected with what happens when we see a woman seeking power. But when she becomes Secretary of State in 2009, her favorables go right up again. So when she serves, when she's doing her job, people observe her doing her job and are blown away by how incredibly good she is at it and how she is really public-minded, and she's a true public servant. So I think that I'm hoping that she wins this election. It is going to be close, and for your listeners out there, we need every single vote. We need every single person to get out and come and vote. But if she wins this election, she will serve as president in a way that I think will really open up opportunities for women just because she's so good at it.
We're speaking with Terry O'Neill with the National Organization for Women. Again, with the close election, Donald Trump has alluded that he will accept the election results if he wins. What happens the day after if Hillary Clinton is elected? What happens then?
So I've heard some people say that they don't believe most of Donald Trump's followers will turn violent if he loses. Clearly, some of his followers have already indicated on videotape that they would be willing to become violent if he loses. I believe that there will not be widespread violence, but again, it's really remarkable that we're even talking about a major party of this country where there is reason to believe that there could be pockets of actual violence if he loses. This is what happens in third world countries. It is not supposed to happen in the United States. The Republican Party made Donald Trump. Donald Trump reflects the Republican Party. The Republican Party needs to take a deep look at itself and figure out how it's going to start behaving like it knows it is in an industrialized country. And once they do, they can start being respected again. They may win elections. That does not necessarily mean that they're respected. You've got David and Charles Koch doing everything they can to empower this Republican Party. Those men own what's going on right now, and they need to think about that.
Pardon me, I'm going to start my question again. There's one thing that Donald Trump said, and it goes back to a topic we talked about earlier. He said, and he walked this back a little bit afterwards, but he said that if a woman gets an abortion, that there should be some punishment there.
Yes.
He did walk it back, but what do you think about that idea?
Oh, I think that if Donald Trump becomes president, Roe v. Wade will be overturned in short order, and I think that women will be criminalized for seeking abortions, and here's why. Mr. Trump's vice presidential running mate, Mike Pence, is currently the governor of Indiana. On Mike Pence's watch, 2 women have already been imprisoned for under Indiana's so-called feticide law. The first woman, a woman, and by the way, both of them women of color, both of them immigrants. So already a little bit hamstrung in being able to access the health care that they need. Bebe Shui, who's an immigrant from China, was pregnant, and she and her boyfriend broke up. She then tried to commit suicide. She actually survived, but she lost the pregnancy. She was imprisoned for feticide. She did not receive the health care she needed. She didn't receive the mental health care she needed. She didn't receive the support she needed. Instead, Mike Pence's Indiana made her a criminal. That's disgusting on the part of Mike Pence, and he would be our vice president. Now, the other case of Purvi Patel, who became pregnant and was frantic to end the pregnancy, could not penetrate Indiana's web of anti-reproductive rights. The clinics were shut down, the clinics she might have gone to. The pregnancy progressed and got more and more expensive to terminate. She couldn't find a clinic that she could afford where she could terminate this pregnancy. She turned to an online source to try a self-medication abortion. That didn't work. Sometime later she had a miscarriage. She was so frantic to not allow her family to know that she had been pregnant that she disposed of the fetus. She was then prosecuted for infanticide, and both infanticide and feticide. That prosecution was later overturned by the appeals court, but Mike Pence is the leader of the state, and he fully supports those laws. And with Trump saying, yes, there has to be some form of punishment, he was telling the truth. Mike Pence has already engineered some form of punishment for women who seek abortions. This could happen nationwide under a Trump presidency.
What else do you want to let people know about the election and about women's issues?
So one of the reasons I'm so excited about Hillary Clinton becoming president is that she actually is leading one of the most progressive agendas that we've seen. She is a pragmatic progressive. My organization supports, for example, a $15 minimum wage. She supports $12. We can work with that. We'll try to push it to $15, but goodness knows it's better than the $7.25 that we have today. Hillary Clinton is dedicated to making it affordable for families to get high-quality child care for their kids. So no family should pay more than 10% of their income on child care. She knows how to get that done. College education without debt. Hillary Clinton's plan would do a number of things. Free tuition at state universities for 4-year college for families making less than, I believe, $125,000. In addition, fully federally funded community college education, get that associate's degree. And Hillary Clinton wants to put child care facilities into our colleges because it turns out that one of the key reasons that women drop out of college, particularly at the community college level, is lack of child care. The average community college student is 28 years old and has 1-point-something children. So Hillary Clinton looks at this and says we have to do those pieces. The other thing she's going to do is make it easier for people who currently have crushing college debt to get out from under that debt. How is she going to pay for it? She's going to require the wealthiest to start paying their fair share. And we know from Donald Trump's example, there's way too many people who pay way too little in taxes, and they're all at the 0.01% of the income level. So she has a wonderful, steeply progressive tax plan that would shelter, that would protect families making less than $250,000. That household makes $250,000 a year, no tax increase for them. Over that amount, you have gradually increasing levels of taxation until it gets to be really high for people, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars per year. God bless them. They owe us too.
Well, Terry, thanks so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you.